let me hear you say something dope, man. So this Bam Bam, you watching Dante's Boxing Nation or Bam Bam Reels?
I'm gonna do the one with a girl walking there like. The girl walking. This is Didnt Boxing. You're watching Boxing Nation.
he done did one of the model intros. No,
that's why you like
Dante's Boxing. That's my intro. That's my new intro right there.
That's badass, alright?
That's badass.
You're watching Didnt Boxing Nation. Stay tuned.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I tell you this all the time. You can call me whatever you want to call me. But one thing you will not call me is a liar. Because when I tell you that I speak the truth, that is exactly what I do. And it is proven over and over and over again. Whenever I expose these double standards that exist in the sport of boxing, it is always backed up with circumstantial evidence that you cannot refute. See, that is what distinguishes me from a decaf that may be a boxing writer, may be a boxing commentator, or whatever the case may be, is they are basing things off of their emotions. They often base their talking points off of emotion and not ration. Because of this, they end up making themselves look very stupid at the end of the day. As I always say, love without truth is hypocrisy. And truth without love is brutality. That quote is very self-explanatory. So let me go ahead and get into the news, or maybe I should say, allow me to present this further circumstantial evidence that proves that the coincidentalist is in full effect. So Bob Arum did a recent interview. I'll put the full link to the interview in the description box. But anyway, he does this interview, and once again to prove to you guys that decafs are not just people in the comment section. This interview proves that a reporter can be a decaf, a boxing writer, a boxing commentator, blow-by-blow announcer, like Jim Lampley, of course, etc., etc., etc. Anybody can be a decaf. No matter what your position is in the sport of boxing, you are still a boxing fan, okay? So with that out the way, Bob does this interview and he's asked a question about Mikey Garcia fighting Terrence Crawford. If you guys didn't know, basically Mikey Garcia, he's been trying to get out of a Bob Arum contract for quite some time. And this all stems from a couple years back when Yoriokas Gamboa was still undefeated and he was aggressively pursuing a Mikey Garcia fight when Mikey Garcia was active, which we all know that he's been inactive for the last 2 years. So Gamboa did everything he could possibly do to get that fight. He pulled a Edislani Lara where he showed up at Mikey Garcia's last fight and confronted him in the ring right after Mikey Garcia won. He did everything. You know, he invited Mikey Garcia to dinner so they could sit down and talk about putting the fight together, just like Floyd Mayweather pretty much did with Manny Pacquiao, you know, meeting up with him at the hotel. Gamboa did all of this to no avail. Did the fight ever get made or come to fruition? Now, to Bob Arum's credit, Bob actually wanted to make this fight. So it was only one party that didn't want this fight to happen, and that was Team Garcia. So Mikey Garcia's promoter, Bob Arum, is pushing for this fight, and this is when Mikey Garcia decides that he wants out of a top-ranked contract. So because of all of this, Mikey Garcia, he's been sitting on the sidelines for 2 years. He's been completely inactive. So anyway, now that I got you guys caught up, let's get back into this interview with Bob Arum. So anyway, a reporter, he says to Bob Arum, he says, what's going on with Mikey Garcia? Mikey Garcia said he's willing to fight Terrence Crawford if you just let him out the contract. And Bob Arum, he said that Mikey Garcia wanted twice the amount of money that Crawford would get. He thinks that he's the A side. That's not wanting to fight. This is what Bob Arum said. He said that's not wanting to fight when you're asking for ridiculous money that you know you're not worth. He's talking like he's the A side, and he knows he's not the A side. This is what Bob Arum is pretty much saying. Now, this is when a reporter interjects, another reporter interjects, and he says something that is completely off the wall. He says, well, Bob, isn't Mikey Garcia the A side? Isn't he the A side? And the reaction and the look on Bob Arum's face was priceless when he heard this reporter say that. Bob Arum said, Mikey Garcia hasn't had a fight in 2 years. He's been inactive. Terrence Crawford is the champion. And Terrence Crawford is the fighter. He's the star right now. How could Mikey Garcia be the A side when he's been inactive for 2 years and he's going up against a champion that's fighting actively on HBO? This is pretty much what Bob Arum said. Once again, I'll put the link in the description so you can hear exactly what he said. Listen, how many times have I told you guys that these are all code words? When you hear these fans say Andre Ward is inactive, that's why I don't like him. That's why he's not the A side and he can't fight against Gennady Golovkin going in there 50-50. Golovkin is the A side. He fights every 3 or 4 months. Andre Ward is an inactive bitch, right? Once again, using these code words. Guys, what Bob Arum and what this reporter just said to Bob Arum completely proves everything that I've been telling you. Now, when it comes to Mikey Garcia, he can be inactive for 2 whole years, and a reporter will still say, well, Bob, isn't he the A side? Andre Ward, who just had a fight last, June, and now he's fighting this weekend, they're still saying he's an inactive bitch. They're using that inactive excuse to call him all kind of other shit that has nothing to do with them not liking him. Now, the reason why they use these code words is to cover up the guilt that they have for not liking and hating people on the coincidental list. But then they become exposed when they try to stick or hide behind these code words, and then one of their favorite fighters is really inactive, and now they have to actually defend that fighter, forcing them to contradict themselves with hypocrisy. Once again, love without truth is hypocrisy. So I really want you guys to pay attention to all of these code words. Now you know how they work. Now you know what to look out for. Whenever you hear a decaf say that a fighter on a coincidental list is inactive, is boring, is a chicken, scared, coward, now you know how to break that shit down, look straight through it, and expose it for what it's worth. Now, I want you guys to understand, this video really doesn't have a whole lot to do with Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is just the example that was used to illustrate the double standards that exist in the sport of boxing. It was the reporter and it was Bob Arum that basically provided the circumstantial evidence. Now, before I switch gears, I'll say I don't blame Mikey Garcia for wanting $1 zillion to fight against Terrence Crawford. Like I always tell you guys, it reminds me of when I was young and my older uncles, they would be like, shit, I get in the ring with Mike Tyson for $1 million. He can knock my head off. And as soon as I get out the hospital, I'm going straight to the bank. And that is exactly what it sounds like when fighters price themselves out. You guys remember when Leo Santa Cruz, matter of fact, he said it to me directly. Leo Santa Cruz, he said, I'll fight Guillermo Rigondeaux for $3 million. So clearly, cats like Guillermo Rigondeaux and Terrence Crawford, they have that Mike Tyson effect. Okay? But you know, going back to these code words and double standards in the sport of boxing, listen, this is the difference from a decaf and a non-decaf. You ever notice you never hear a non-decaf talking about how much he personally doesn't like someone? They never speak with hate. It never gets that personal with them. Only with decafs do you hear people talking with this type of deep-seated hate that has nothing to do with boxing. You ever notice how a decaf is always trying to justify why he doesn't like someone? Oh, I don't like Floyd Mayweather because of, his domestic violence case. And, I don't like Andre Ward because he's boring, because he's this. And, I don't like Guillermo Rigo because he's boring and he's this and he's that. That's the reason why people don't like him. Why would that be a good enough reason to personally not like someone? Once again, you never hear a decaf trying to explain, I don't like Mikey Garcia because he's inactive. That's the reason why I don't like him. I don't like him because he hasn't had a fight in 2 years and so on and so forth. This is what you hear decaf say about Andre Ward. He's an inactive bum bitch and all that kind of stuff. What does a person being inactive have to do with you personally hating him? You personally disliking him? How are those two things synonymous? His inactivity and your hate for him, how is that synonymous? One has nothing to do with the other, right? Oh man, the reason why I don't like Mikey Garcia is because he's inactive. He's an inactive bitch, right? He's inactive, he's boring, he's this and he's that. You never hear it. What does a person being inactive have to do with you saying, fuck him? Fuck that inactive bitch. What does him being inactive have to do with you calling him a bitch? You saying, fuck the person. How is that synonymous? And how is that an excuse to personally not like someone? I would never sit over here and tell you guys I don't like that Mikey Garcia guy, because he's inactive and this and that and this and that. When people bring up Mikey Garcia's name, people talk about how they can't wait for him to come back and Mikey Garcia was a beast, etc., etc., etc. Because Mikey Garcia has his Hope insurance, Mikey Garcia can be inactive. But when you don't have your Hope insurance, you can't be inactive, or else that's the reason why they don't like you. The inactive excuse, Mikey Garcia, this whole Mikey Garcia story proves the inactive excuse is just that, an excuse. They didn't like Andre Ward from day one. So they fish and shop for code words to use so that they can cover up the fact that they never liked him. And that's what it comes down to. Code words. I've conversated with people in the sport of boxing that have very high positions in the sport. And there's one guy, I'm not going to mention his name, he follows my channel a lot and, he always sends me messages asking me questions about certain things. But anyway, we were talking about Andre Ward before Andre Ward was supposed to fight on the Canelo Alvarez undercard. And it just blew me away, the hate that this man had for Andre Ward. It made no sense. It made no sense. This man was just talking about Andre Ward like he was the devil. He was like, man, the guy's just not a likable guy. He's a prick, he's this and he's that, and he's just saying all this stuff. And I couldn't understand, how could you dislike someone that has never done anything to you? How could you hate them that much? How could you hate them that much? Forget that much. How can you hate them at all? I can't think of one single fighter that I personally hate. That is a strong word. I can't think of one fighter that I personally just dislike for no reason at all. I don't even dislike or hate Edwin Valero. You guys remember Edwin Valero, right? This man was a drug addict. He turned out to be a drug addict, ended up killing his wife because he was high on drugs, and then he killed himself. I don't even dislike that guy. I just feel it's a travesty what happened. I feel sorry for the family, but I don't hate any of them. See, once again, guys, this I don't like this person for this silly ass reason, for that silly ass reason, is nothing but a cover up. They never like this person, but they have to come up with one of these code words to justify it. You will never hear me trying to justify why I don't like someone, especially a boxer. Because first of all, in order for me to not like you, you have to do something to me personally. You have to say something about my race personally. You have to make it very clear that you don't like me or you don't like my race, then that's a different situation. I mean, even with Sergey Kovalev, this man calls black people monkeys, and I still praise this man for the boxing skill that he has. I still tell you guys, I think he would beat Adonis Stevens. I still tell you guys, this guy is extremely gifted and talented at the light heavyweight division, and he's the best fighter there. Notice I don't allow my emotions to cloud the truth. But see, that's what they do. That's what they do with fighters on a coincidental list. They, deep down, they know how good Andre Ward is. They know how good Floyd Mayweather is. They know how good these fighters are, but they allow their emotions to cloud their vision. They can't give these fighters that they don't like credit like I give Kovalev credit, because they have too much hate embedded into their damn heart. Now, with me being very high on the coincidental list myself, do you guys notice how all I have to say is Gennady Golovkin, when he was calling out Chavez and he was calling out Carl Froch at 168, why didn't this man fight Andre Ward? That's all I have to say. And then the Golovkin fans, they start using these code words. I didn't tell you guys about this being a code word as well. The other code word they're using, guys, is racist. That's another code word for what they really want to call you. And I know what they really want to call you because I receive the messages every day. You guys just don't see the majority of them because certain racial slurs that people post, in my comment section, those words are automatically blocked and they go to a review folder. So you guys don't see them. This is why I tell you, I know what they really want to call you. And these words, once again, inactive, boring, a chicken, racist, these are all code words for what they really want to call you. But their guilty conscience won't allow them to say that, because then they would be perceived as the bad guy. And just to really prove my case, let's just really think about this and see if it makes sense. Okay, so if I say that Golovkin is 34 years old and he's a good fighter, but I want to see him step up in competition, which is coincidentally the same thing that Teddy Atlas said, the same thing that even a Russian fighter, Matt Korobov, said. We've heard many different fighters say this, right? So if I criticize him the way Teddy Atlas criticizes him, they'll use that code word and they'll call me racist, right? But then at the same time, when it comes to Andre Ward, these same fans, they'll just say, fuck that bitch, that SOB this and that bum bitch and all of this kind of shit, and not even really explain why they have this type of disdain for him, right? Now notice, when they say fuck him, he's a bitch and he's a bum and he's that, notice, unlike me, they're not even talking boxing. It's all personal with them. So if you're calling me racist for saying that Golovkin should step up in competition. He should fight pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world, Andre Ward. If you're saying that that's racist, then that means you're a racist to the 10th power. That means you're a genocidal racist, a Nazi, etc., 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 according to your own logic. You know, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's reporters out there. There's one guy in particular. This guy has been around forever. And this guy, he said that Al Haymon was a piece of shit. No explanation, no boxing talk. He just said he was a piece of shit. You know what he said about Andre Ward? He said, when I think about Andre Ward and his next opponent, I think about taking a dump. He says something on the lines of that. But this is coming from a professional reporter / boxing writer. Can you guys imagine if me being on the coincidental list, can you imagine if I were to say exactly what he just said about Al Haymon and Ward? Imagine if I said something like that about Gennady Golovkin. Can you guys imagine what they would say about me? But because this guy has his hope card, it's okay to blast the shit out of fighters on a coincidental list because, hey, after all, no one likes those guys on the coincidental list, so we could say this kind of stuff. But no one calls this guy a racist. That's how you know that when they call you a racist for criticizing Golovkin and you're not saying anything about not liking him, you're not calling him a piece of shit, you're not saying you thinking about taking a dump when you think about Golovkin's next opponent. That's how you know when they call you a racist and you're not saying that kind of stuff. That is another code word. It's another code word. I told y'all, man, I understand the psychology of a decaf. I'm giving y'all this game, man. Each one teach one. Just like my man Chuck D said from Public Enemy, what we need is awareness. We can't get careless. You say, what is this? That was from Fight the Power, Public Enemy song on the Do the Right Thing soundtrack. But see, this is why they always try to get you to shut up. This is why they always try to hush you up. Because they don't want you to put this awareness out there. That's what they are in fear of, because they have a guilty conscience and they don't want to be exposed for what they really are. That's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.
Daryl, I kept calling Deontay too. Daryl,
everything, Darrell.
Darrell, every name.
Real to real. Yeah. You just trying to find something to rhyme. I got you.
I don't know, dude. I was just calling for everything.